"Sir, you don't belong here." David Carter halts mid-step. A ripple of unease spreads through the boarding area. Conversations hush. A few passengers exchange glances. Others avert their eyes. Dressed in a tailored navy blue suit, David tightens his grip on his first-class boarding pass. His pulse slows, steady. This isn't the first time. He meets the attendant's gaze. "There must be a misunderstanding," she folds her arms. "This area is for premium passengers only." David raises the pass slightly. "I'm aware." A beat of silence. A few bystanders murmur. Someone shifts uncomfortably. The attendant barely glances at the ticket before shaking her head. Security will handle it. David exhales through his nose, measured. Not here, not like this. A sharp voice crackles over the intercom, summoning security. Heavy boots thud against the tile floor. Two security guards emerge, their gazes locked on David. "Sir, we need to see your boarding pass," one of them states, monotone, already reaching for his radio. David keeps his voice even. "I already showed it." He extends the pass. The guard glances at the attendant, who shakes her head. "It must be a mistake." David clenches his jaw. A mistake? A murmur spreads through the crowd. Some reach for their phones. Others look away. "Step aside, sir," the second guard instructs, already gesturing toward a separate area. David doesn't move. He won't be dismissed so easily. The airport air thickens with tension. Passengers shift in their seats. Some watch through their phone screens. Others cast fleeting glances before looking away. A mother pulls her child closer. A businessman adjusts his tie, avoiding eye contact. David breathes in deeply, his chest rising with slow control. Stay calm, stay composed. The guards don't ask questions. They see a black man where he supposedly doesn't belong. "Sir," one repeats, impatience creeping into his tone. "We need you to step aside." David keeps his posture firm. "Why?" The attendant exhales, exasperated. "You're making a scene." "Number they are?" David's heartbeat hammers, but his expression remains unreadable. He extends his first-class pass again. "It's valid." The guards exchange a glance. One step forward. A firm grip clamps onto his arm. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. David's breath shudders, but he steadies himself. They expect anger. He won't give them that. "Sir, let's not make this difficult," the guard warns. "Difficult?" David lets out a humorless exhale. "You're forcibly removing a man with a valid ticket," he says, his voice even. "What exactly is difficult about that?" For the first time, the guard hesitates. David lifts his chin, and voice quiet but edged with controlled fury. "I designed this airport." Silence. The grip on his arm slackens. The attendant's face twists in confusion. One of the guards blinks, his brow furrowing. Passengers lean in. Someone whispers, "Did he just say?" David doesn't flinch. "Every corridor, every beam, every sign you follow, I created them." His gaze flickers to the flight attendant. "Yet I still don't belong?" For the first time, doubt flickers in their eyes. The scene blurs. A younger David stands outside an office door, resume in hand, rejection letters piling up. Late nights at a dimly lit desk. Fighting, proving, building. He never thought his own work would be the place he'd have to justify his presence. Yet, here he is. David Carter leans back in his chair, scrolling through industry headlines. Another article praising the airport's revolutionary design, his design, yet his name is nowhere in the byline. He exhales, familiar, but never less infuriating. "David, they want you in the boardroom," his assistant calls. He shuts his laptop, smoothing his tie. Time to prove himself again. Despite his accolades, whispers still linger in corporate circles. Lucky break. Diversity hire. They don't see the late nights, the rejected proposals, the battles fought in rooms where he was the only black face at the table. Today was just another reminder. The conference table is lined with executives who never lifted a brick but control the narrative. David clears his throat. This airport wasn't just a project. It was a promise, a vision for seamless travel, efficiency, accessibility, innovation. A few nod, others glance at their watches. You designed a masterpiece, one finally concedes. But branding-wise, we need a more familiar name at the forefront. Familiar. David knows what that means. He clasps his hands together. Funny, he says, voice even, because travelers seem to love it, and they have no idea whose name is on the blueprint. Silence. Checkmate. Recognition never came freely. David's first project was almost credited to another architect until he fought back. His second proposal? Ignored until a white colleague co-signed it. Years passed. His talent became undeniable, but acceptance remained conditional. "David, we're considering other firms," a CEO once said, flipping through his plans. David had only smiled. "Give them a shot, then compare their work to mine." A month later, the same CEO called back. A deal was signed. David never sought validation. He just forced them to see what they refused to acknowledge. Still, some never truly did. David's success wasn't a gift, it was a consequence of his excellence. Eventually, the industry stopped trying to deny him. Not out of fairness, but because they had no choice. "David, your firm's the top contender," an investor once admitted. "Honestly, you're the best in the game." He smirked. "I've been the best for years. You're just late to the party." Respect was earned, not given. But even now, walking through his own airport, boarding his own flight, he would still be seen as a question mark. A black man in a suit instead of the architect behind the walls. David checks in at the gate, first-class ticket in hand. The airline had personally invited him to speak at an architectural summit. He exhales, rolling his shoulders, a rare moment of peace. "Excuse me, sir," a voice cuts in. David turns. The flight attendant's eyes narrow slightly. "First-class boarding is for premium passengers," she says, lips tight. His fingers tighten around his ticket. It's happening again. David straightens, readying his response. Because today, he won't let the world pretend it doesn't know his name. Next. David steps forward, passport and ticket in hand. The check-in agent barely glances up. Her voice is clipped, her movements mechanical. "ID," she mutters, fingers tapping impatiently on the keyboard. A white couple in the next line is met with warmth. "Welcome? Heading somewhere exciting?" The agent laughs, handing them their boarding passes with a smile. David exhales, familiar with this silent imbalance. "Is there an issue?" he asks, keeping his voice even. The agent's eyes flicker with something unreadable. "No," she says flatly, sliding his ticket across the counter. "You're all set." But he isn't. David settles into a leather chair, letting the quiet hum of the airport lounge ease his frustration. Nearby, two flight crew members chat casually. One glances his way, then nudges the other. "Bet he's an athlete," she whispers. David smiles faintly, shaking his head. "Or maybe a musician," the other suggests. David closes his book and looks up. "Architect, actually," he corrects. Their laughter falters. One clears her throat. "Oh, wow, that's unexpected." Unexpectedly, because men like him don't build, they perform. David lets the moment hang before returning to his book. Let them sit with their assumptions. The boarding announcement echoes through the terminal. David moves toward the priority lane when a young businessman steps in front of him, barely acknowledging his presence. "Excuse me," David says, keeping his tone calm. The man doesn't turn. The flight attendant notices and immediately addresses David instead. "Sir, please wait your turn." David raises an eyebrow. "I have a first-class ticket." Her expression tightens. "I need to see it." He exhales slowly and hands it over. Her eyes scan it twice, lips pursing. Meanwhile, the businessman, who had cut the line, walks past without issue. No ticket check, no questioning. David holds her gaze as she finally steps aside. "Enjoy your flight," she says stiffly. He walks forward, pulse steady but hands clenched. Another quiet battle. Another reminder of the line he was never meant to cross. Each moment is small, a glance, a hesitation, a judgment. Alone, they might seem insignificant. Together, they create a weight that never lifts. David finds his seat, inhaling deeply. He has fought these fights before, in boardrooms and beyond. He knows the script, the roles, the predictable discomfort. But something is different this time. A shift in the air. A flight attendant approaches again. "Sir, I need to speak with you," she says, a voice carefully neutral. David tilts his head. "Is there a problem?" Her gaze flickers to the front of the cabin, where a supervisor stands watching. "We just need to confirm something before takeoff." David straightens, jaw tight. He doesn't know what's coming next, but he knows what it feels like. David extends his first-class boarding pass, his fingers steady despite the weight of the moment. The flight attendant barely glances at it before her frown deepens. "Sir, are you sure this is yours?" The question slices through the air, coated with skepticism. A few passengers shift their attention, curiosity flickering in their eyes. David forces a calm breath. "Yes, that's my name on the ticket." She doesn't hand it back. Instead, she tilts her head, scanning him as if something doesn't add up. The moment stretches, thick with silent judgment. A businessman behind him clears his throat. "Is there a problem?" She ignores him, flipping the ticket over then back. "One moment, sir." The words aren't reassurance. They're a warning. The murmur of the crowd swells. Doubt has been planted, and it's already taking root. The attendant's smile is thin, artificial. Her fingers twitch slightly, an unspoken cue. David catches it. A security officer at the gate nods in response. Passengers glance up from their screens. Some smirk, others whisper. A few raise their phones, ready to capture whatever happens next. David tightens his grip on the ticket. His pulse is steady, but his mind races. "Is there an issue?" His voice remains measured, though frustration simmers beneath. "Just verifying something, sir," she replies, too casually. Verifying what? He knows. It isn't the ticket, it isn't the seat, it's him. The officer begins moving. The people around him exchange knowing looks. A man near the gate snorts. "Here we go." David stands straighter. He won't give them the reaction they're hoping for. But he also knows it doesn't matter. It's already happening. A firm grip clamps onto his arm. "Sir, come with us." David doesn't move. "Let go." The officer's fingers tighten. "Step aside." He keeps his voice level. "On what grounds?" The attendant chimes in, arms crossed. His ticket seemed suspicious. David exhales sharply. "Suspicious? How?" No answer. The watching crowd eats it up, an unfolding spectacle. Not one person questions the treatment. The officer tugs him toward the side. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." A woman nearby mutters, "Just go, man. Not worth the trouble." Not worth the trouble. That's how it always is, isn't it? David clenches his jaw but allows himself to be led away. Because they aren't asking him to comply. They're daring him to resist. David exhales, then reaches into his pocket, pulling out his ID. "My name is David Carter. I'm an architect, and I designed this airport." The flight attendant folds her arms. "Oh, really?" David stays firm. "Yes. Every structure, every walkway. You're standing in something I built." Silence stretches for half a beat, then laughter. One of the crew members shakes his head. "Next, you'll tell us you own the airline, too." The guard looks at David's ID, then at him, expression unreadable. The laughter swells, the humiliation sinking deeper. The flight attendant smirks. Nice story, though. David's stomach knots. It's not disbelief, it's dismissal. Because even now, even with proof in their hands, they still don't see him. The laughter cuts deep, not because it's unexpected, but because it's so casual. David clenches his jaw. He spent years building his career, breaking through ceilings that weren't made for him. And still, here he is, reduced to a joke. The attendant shakes her head. Nice try, though. The guard exhales, uninterested. Sir, you need to leave. David swallows the bitter taste rising in his throat. Not anger, exhaustion, but then a voice cuts through the noise. Wait. The word isn't loud, but it carries weight. David turns, so does everyone else. A man in a sharp suit steps forward, eyes narrowing. That's David Carter. Recognition flashes across his face. He's not lying. He's the lead architect on this project. The tension shifts. A ripple moves through the crowd. The whispers change. Wait, that's him? Someone mutters, I think I read about him before. The flight attendant's smirk falters. David exhales slowly, watching the shift unfold. But he's seen it before. Recognition always comes second to assumption. The turning point. The power shift begins. A voice slices through the tension. That's David Carter. Check your facts. The crowd parts as Eric, David's colleague, steps forward, phone in hand. He swipes through articles, flashing headlines for everyone to see. Visionary architect David Carter, the man behind the city's biggest projects. Meet the genius who designed the future of aviation. A hushed murmur spreads. Eyes dart from the screen to David. The flight attendant stiffens, her confidence faltering. The security officer who had gripped David's arm inches away, uncertainty creeping into his expression. This is absurd, Eric continues. You humiliated the man who built the very airport you're standing in. David says nothing. He doesn't need to. The shift has begun, and the internet is about to do the rest. A journalist in the crowd lifts his phone, broadcasting live. Breaking news. Renowned architect David Carter detained at the airport he designed, because they didn't believe he belonged. Comments flood in. Unbelievable. This is why we need change. Hashtags explode. # Justice for David. # Architect of Injustice. Within minutes, the clip is everywhere. At airline headquarters, notifications pile up. Emails, calls, damage control. Meanwhile, David stands still, unreadable. He watches as the security guards shift uncomfortably, the flight crew exchanging panicked glances. The weight of public scrutiny tightens around them. What had started as a quiet act of discrimination is now a full-blown scandal. And it's only getting started. The flight attendant swallows hard. The smugness in her posture dissolves. Sir, we were just following protocol, she stammers. What protocol? Eric fires back. Doubt before evidence? Assumption over truth? The security officer steps back. We didn't mean any offense. David exhales slowly. He's seen this before. The unraveling. The moment when power tilts, when those who stood firm in their bias begin to stumble. The weight of consequence presses down on them now. But words won't undo what has been done. And David knows it. A man in a suit rushes over, breathless. The airline manager. Mr. Carter, I am deeply sorry. This was a misunderstanding, I assure you. A misunderstanding. David interrupts, voice calm but sharp. Or a mistake. The manager falters. We take full responsibility. Please, let us make it right. David glances at the still recording phones. The murmuring crowd. The damage is done. You can't undo the humiliation, Eric mutters. The manager hesitates. We'd like to offer you a complimentary flight. First class. David smiles, but there's no warmth in it. Oh, I don't think that will be necessary. David turns to the flight crew, the security officers, the airline manager, their faces taut with regret. He meets their eyes, then gestures around. Would you like me to give you a tour of the airport I built? Silence. A few passengers chuckle nervously. Others nod, as if urging him on. The airline manager shifts uncomfortably. No? David tilts his head. That's a shame. You could learn a lot. He picks up his bag, steps past them, and walks toward the gate. The world is watching. And this time, the story is his to tell. Effective immediately, all personnel involved will undergo mandatory bias training. "We do not tolerate discrimination at any level," the airline's official statement read, but the damage was already done. Headlines swirled, news anchors dissected every detail, and corporate executives scrambled. The flight crew faced suspensions, while higher-ups convened crisis meetings to salvage public trust. David, meanwhile, watched the chaos unfold, unmoved. He had no interest in their rehearsed apologies. The world had already seen the truth. The internet refused to let the incident fade. Justice, for David, trended globally. Activists and celebrities amplified the conversation, demanding more than just corporate statements. "This isn't just about one man," a prominent journalist said on national television. "It's about systemic injustice. This must stop." David received countless messages, some supportive, others hateful, but one stood out. A young aspiring architect wrote, "Your story gives me hope. If you can succeed despite this, so can I." For the first time since that humiliating day, David felt something shift. His pain had become a movement. Weeks later, David took the stage at an international architectural summit. Cameras flashed, the world watched. He cleared his throat. "I was once told I didn't belong in a place I designed. But let me tell you," he met the audience's eyes, "I belong anywhere my talent takes me. And so do you." The hall erupted in applause. Viewership numbers shattered records. News outlets shifted the narrative. From humiliation to triumph, from discrimination to resilience. David Carter was no longer just a victim, he was a symbol of perseverance. The airline reached out again, offering a private apology, a settlement. David declined. "I don't need their money," he told a friend. "I needed people to see." And they did. He didn't seek revenge. His dignity had already been restored. The truth had spoken louder than any retribution ever could. As David walked through the very airport he designed, heads turned, not in judgment but in recognition. And this time he walked tall, knowing he had changed more than just a narrative. He had sparked a revolution. Imagine standing in David's place, humiliated, disrespected, and judged before a single word was spoken. What would you have done? Would you have fought back, demanded justice, or walked away in silence? These moments of discrimination are not just stories. They are real experiences that shape lives. How would you have handled it? Racial bias is a painful reality that many have faced. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt unfairly judged because of your race, background, or identity? Your story matters. Share your experience in the comments. Let's create a space where voices are heard, where solidarity replaces silence. Biases still exist today, affecting people in ways both seen and unseen. But awareness is the first step to change. What can we do as a society to challenge discrimination? How can we ensure that moments like David's don't keep repeating? Let's discuss real solutions and hold those in power accountable. This conversation shouldn't stop here. If this story moved you, if it made you think, don't let it fade. Like, comment, and share this message. Every voice raised is a step toward justice. Let's make sure stories like David's are not just heard, but acted upon.